Hello and welcome, I'm Mystical, this is Mystical Gaming. We're jumping back into Watch Your Realm, so it's Gear Raid 1, Stage 22. This is the last one of the Stage 22 series, so you should be good to go for tomorrow when the patch drops, okay? Format of the video, so let's jump into that to start with then. So there'll be over here, chapters below, and we'll link it up into chapters, but essentially we're going to go over how I picked my team and what team members I want for doing it the way that I'm doing it. Then I'll go over the gear of the heroes I've got, because the gear requirement's quite a lot. So it's 900 BP here, whereas beforehand on 21 it was just under 740. So there's a disparity there. So we'll go over the gear and you can have a look at how I've geared people to start with before you even jump into a run. Then we'll do the run. Then afterwards I'll go through some other possible teams or teams I might be trying, that sort of thing. Okay, so there's no Ingrid in this team, and that's not because I wanted to make a didn't use Ingrid type tick. If I'd got her, I'd have used her. Okay, but I pulled on two banners and I haven't got her. The last banner I got a Duke Demi and a Duke Ajax. Okay, so if I had her, I'd use her. I advise, if you've got her, use her. Right. That's the advice I'm going for. Right, let's jump into 22. So right, here's the fight. None of those. They are, I don't know why I put them in or why they get put in. For doing it this way, there's a couple of things I need. So I'm going to be fighting on the left and the right platform. Right, okay, quick one on this then. There's no change that I can see between 21 and 22, except for everything's taken a bump up, does a bit more damage, it has a bit more health, that sort of stuff. Okay, there's no mechanical changes within the fight itself. Okay, you're going into the same thing as you did before. Right. Number 2, Gear Raid 2, that has a change in the mechanics and how mobs come out, and Gear Raid 3 has a change, the boss has a new ability. So there are changes there, but this one, I don't think there are any changes. Right, so I want a healer, and that's just not strictly true. I want 2 healers. I want one on one platform, one on the other. So pick your 2 best healers and go for that. There you go. They're my 2 best healers. That's why I'm picking them. There's no other reason to pick them. They are just my best healers that I've got. Now I'll stay on this screen because the next thing I want to buff my damage as well. So I want a buffer. Now there we go. Boom. She's right there. She's ready to be picked. The other part of my team, I'm going to require an anti-healer. So let's come out of there and we pick anti-healing, and the game shows you, well, for me it shows these 3 heroes. That's not strictly true. Let's just cover this quickly. So for anti-healing, if we take that off and we go over here, there he is there. So he doesn't get included, but he does this passive here. And there, when he inflicts a freeze, he does an anti-heal as well. So he does have some anti-healing capability. He's not designed as an anti-healing champion, but he does have that capability there. So when you select anti-healing, he doesn't come up, but he is available there. Now I do use an anti-healer. Now the one I use right out of these 3. I think he's quite good, can do a perfectly good job, and if you put some more skill crystals into him, probably even better. Okay, but this is where the anti-heal comes from. It comes from his ultimate, and his ultimate is at 1000 rage. Now, for me, I am better off using the other one, because Laseer here, I'm only using him for anti-heal. And his ultimate, he does it on his ultimate, but his ultimate costs 800 rage. So I'm 200 rage to the good by using Laseer. So that's who I'm using and why I use him, okay? Simply because it's easier to speed tune him. We'll come on to that in a minute. It's easier to speed tune him to be in time with the boss. Right, so the next thing I've got room for in my team, I've used 4 out of my 8 slots. Next thing is I want 3 DPS, okay? So the DPS I'm using are all coming from the cultist. They're remarkably well at doing AoE damage. There we go. So they're my 2 I'm using. My 3rd one is Dahlia there. Now, I would swap her out for Ingrid. If I had Ingrid, I'd use Ingrid. I don't, so I'm using her instead. Okay, that's why she is there. Right, okay, so that's why she's picked. The next thing I want to do is chuck in some lords. Now, I use Morrigan over Denny. If you click on the little lord icon, you can see the buff they give you. Not all lords are built the same. So yes, they both the lords give me 15% increase to our attributes, and both the lords do 30% more damage to DC effective mobs by, okay, However, Morrigan increases a team's members' AoE damage by 25%, whereas Denny faction members kill an enemy increases their damage by 12% for 5 seconds, stacks up to 3 times. So I seem to have more joy with Morrigan, that's why I'm using her. But check whatever lord you're using, or if you've got the option where you've got more lords available, go for that as well. Whereas over here I've got much less of an option on who I'm actually picking to fit into that lord slot. I've got a choice of 1, so that narrows down my field of options quite considerably there. Now that leaves me one last spot. And shout out to Arturus. I watched his video on how he done it. He used an Ingrid, so he sort of cheated, but there you go. He used a tank in there as well, or a defender, and I've robbed that idea completely from him. I saw it there, I thought this could be fantastic. I tried it and it worked really well, so quick shout out to him there, because that is absolutely fantastic. Now he used Captain Reve, so that's who we're going to be using in here. Now we'll go through some other options and other options I've done. I haven't played around, but there are plenty of other options available, okay? But this is the one he went with, and the one I've gone with as well. Now when you've got everything in there, just make sure that you've got everything lined up the way you want to be. So my anti-heal, that's brilliant, but I don't care if my anti-heal gets lord bonuses or not, to be honest. What I do care about is if my DPS gets lord bonuses or not, okay? But you can swap them around. Make sure if you've got people who are dual class, you work them into that sort of thing, okay? So bear that in mind. Now gearing, let's go over the gearing. So DPS, all I've done with the DPS is chuck them in DPS gear. You know how to build someone, you pick your stats and make sure you've got enough crit rate, and that's about it. And then I've made sure they've got all their skills done up and they're good to go. Okay, that's realistically it. Vierna's in exclusive stuff from tier 3, including the cultist piece, and then they are in their exclusive artifacts as well. And if you've been on the game for a bit longer and you've managed to do limited summonings twice, then they've been awakened as well. So that's what they've got. So that's DPS out the way. Healers aren't there's no change in healers. You know who your best healers are. You know how to build your healers if you're doing stage 22. There we go. We've got them in healing gear, doing healing type stuff. Now I've used the orb because I wanted the increased attack speed on people. Remember, there are 2 platforms. I'm using 2 healers, so I've got 2 lots of people on each one, so I'm using a bit of attack speed on each side as well, okay? So that's the same. But again, the healers aren't important over who you're using. It's just making sure they live and can dish out enough healing, and the healing's quite sizable, the healing, to be honest, depending on how quickly you're getting them down. Buffing, inspiration buff, you all know how to do it. You know what you're doing there. Wings of Grace set, and we've gone for as much attack. We've gone for attack and then attack speed where we can, and then and attack and flat attack where we can. So that's her. And then on the left hand side we've gone for attack percentage as well. Okay, so that's her done. Lastly, we've got our defender. No great shakes there. I find either Tempered Will or Guardian going to do fine for you. HP percentage, and then with the set bonus you're mitigating 15% of the damage coming in anyway. So that's it done there. Then we've got our lords as well. So how do we build up our lords? Well, quite simply, we just stick them in a Wings of Grace set. That's all I've done with the lords. So you'll see them come on and then get recalled because they're both in Wings of Grace set, and they are there to buff my DPS. My DPS is minimal to get away with this. Okay? This is as little as you can do, I think. I don't think there's much less in it to be able to get through the fight. So sort of bear that in mind as we go forward and do the fight. Now the last hero I want to have a look at is Laseer. So he is relatively important, all things considered. So here he is. Now his skills are all done, terrific. Artifact is his own exclusive one, and it gives him restores 1.5% rage and increases damage. Okay, so he gets a bit of rage back, which does help me. The rest of it is to make sure his speed and his rage regen are high enough that his ultimate comes round often enough for when the boss casts his heal. That's essentially it. So whichever way round you want to do it, I've managed to put a lot more attack speed onto him than I have rage regen, but if you've got more rage regen gear, then I would go for that. Certainly on the left hand side, there's a free 75% attack speed just for putting this set on him. Remember, he's not there for damage, or mine isn't there for damage. If you can add some damage into him, absolutely fantastic. So we've gone for attack percentage on stuff, and we've made sure we've got crit rate in there, but I want that speed, and if I had a bit more rage regen on him, I'd probably be a bit happier as well. But bear in mind, how you build yours is there to get the anti-heal down. He's not there to do damage, okay? So make sure you've got your speed tuned to get rid of that healing the boss is going to do, otherwise you're just making hard work for yourself, and we want to make it as easy as possible. Right, with that done, let's get into the run. Now, I haven't selected this off because it's a pre-recorded run, okay? So I recorded my first time going through, and I've done a couple of other runs as well. So when you see at the end, you'll see that it says, oh, first time, you get your first time reward, okay? So you're perfectly aware that power of dominance isn't on, okay? Right, let's get me shrunk down, plugged out the way. I dare say here's going to be fine, just so we all know what's actually happening and we can go through it. Right, so I put Vierna down to start with. She's the bulk of my DPS. She does most of the damage, so she goes down first. And that is so I can get some more buffing on her as well. So we stick down our Lord. Our Lord goes down there with a Wings of Grace set on, and then we can call our Lord as well. So we can get rid of, we can just put the Wings of Grace set on and then recall them, and then we get that buff from Vierna. That's it. After that, my next spot behind her, or to the right, but depending on here, look at it at the far end of the map, that is where I would put, or I intend to put Ingrid tomorrow, going across. But in this case, we don't have her, so we've used Dahlia instead. Right, they can carry on DPS, no great shakes. First 30 mobs or so, you should build everything up. And don't do a massive amount of work on massive amount of damage on your wall anyway, okay? Next down is Laseer. Now, depending on how long you take to build up his rage, would depend on how quickly you want it to go off. Now, I hit his rage at about the totem mark, normally. Beforehand, on this first one, I generally hit it about halfway, or I try to, because it takes a bit longer next time round. He hasn't got as much damage going on, or healing, or there's a gap. So sort of judge where you need to sort of fire off that first one and where they need to come in. After that, I put down my first healer on the left hand side to heal him up. And then we're just waiting for enough on the other side, and we'll put the second healer down on the right hand side to make sure no one dies there as well. That's all good. I don't need to do anything. Vierna now fires off her ultimate. The reason there is because Vierna's going to fire off hers. Then I'm going to trigger off Elowyn, get a little bit of rage regen out of that as well, okay? So I just fire hers off then, and I hit about 8 out of the 63 has been marked there. I can sometimes hit 9, and I have one that's hit 10, so a bit of RNG going on. Our buff goes down, she's going straight into inspiration mode, and that's it, okay? That's her done and dusted there. Again, keeping Laseer's heals on the go, there we are. And then with Laseer firing off these heals and being relatively speed tuned with the boss, I can then fire off ultimates whenever I like. So next person's going down on the left hand side. I try and keep her in tune with Ferssi, because Fersi's got a little inspiration going on, so we can fire them both off, and I can get a little more damage out of it that way, okay? So that's it, pretty much done there. My next one down is my last Lord. My Lord goes down that way, I pull her away. There's the last Wings of Grace set put on, or last Wings of Grace buff put on, although you don't see it on her, so I don't know if she gets it, her bet gets it or not, but I didn't want to not do it. I was scared not to have done it, and I must admit I haven't tested it yet, to be honest, so I don't know if it goes on or not. After that, Captain Reeves goes down. Now, the only other thing I'd say about your two healers is I've got them in such a place that they both heal that middle slot where the tank is. So depending on how tanky your tank is will depend on how much healing they need. You might have a bit more wriggle room with your healers, okay? So just bear that in mind going forward. Tank there is just there to actually hold on other people coming through. Here we go, here's the boss there. The boss is coming down with his healing, as we can see. Laseer's ready. There we go. We fired off Laseer's there. Everyone should get the anti-heal. No healing going on. Boom. And there you go. We can kill off everyone. So we're at a nice place now. What are we? 30 out of 30 or 30 done out of the 63. And now the last of the first wave of mobs comes through. This is sort of the last bit of the first page. So these mobs here, these then now start to do some actual damage to the wall. This is where I want my tank in. Again, the boss is coming down with his healing. There's his healing coming up. Laseer's ready. Boom, our anti-heal goes down. We are all good. And you can keep firing off these ultimates because we've got the anti-heal down, okay? We don't have to worry about the anti-heal, or sorry, we don't have to worry about the boss's heal going down. Waiting for that to be finished and then firing off our ultimates. We can keep as much damage going as possible. Now, quick one to note. I don't think you take a great deal of damage, if any, when you're at the bottom here. So if you put a fighter reaching over this wall, I haven't seen any fighters take any damage. I might try it later, but I don't see anyone taking damage, which is a good thing, okay? Now, I do make sure that on that left-hand side, as these mobs come round here, these little plague mobs come round, they do clip my DPS, and there's more damage coming in than I can heal with Ferssi. So I put my wood elf over there, but depending on what healers you've got or how you're doing will depend on how it goes for you, okay? So there we go, can fire off our pair again, can fire off Dahlia again. We've got the DPS going, it's all good, okay? So it's just a matter of keeping the DPS going as often as you can. When your Laseer is speed tuned, so there's the boss doing his thing, Laseer's ready with the anti-heal, we click off Laseer, and so we can keep that healing to a minimum that the boss is trying to do on them. The healing that you see there, I think there's a little bit, I think some has got through. Remember, you can only do so many mobs, I think it's 8 to 10 or something like that, so you may not get everyone you want. There may be some healing going on from the boss, okay? Don't think you're going to get it all done, but you might have better gear than me, you might have more awakened champions than me, so your ability to do more DPS might be high. You might have an Ingrid. Lucky it's so balanced. So that's essentially the fight. That's it, all done, and it is just a matter of keeping them rotating and keeping them go through. And then where I can, I sort of execute. It's a bit tricky to see with Vierna on when you can pull your execute and when you can't, okay? So try and watch out for it, but it's not the most easiest of thing in that mass to actually see when she should be able to execute people. I mean, if there was a list somewhere, yes, I can do it there. But I keep a track on what I've got. We're now up to 53 out of the 63. Our wall is doing relatively well. In all my other counters, it had been a lot worse than this, being as this is the first time through. So we're now down to what, 57. So there's 6 more mobs left. One of those is the boss as well. Yeah, you're in a relatively good place by here, I think. No one's got through. I think by the time you get most of that wave done, so maybe the 53-ish mark, if you're hitting there and your wall's still up, or part of your wall is still up, then I think you're in a really good place to finish off, because there's less of them doing any damage. So there are things like that to watch out for, or to at least be aware of. We're just taking the boss down now. Last person to do. Boom. We are done. That is it, and we are just waiting. There we go. Thank you. Thought it was going to fail on me there. That'd be strange as I re-recorded. So that's it all cleared. There's your 3-star. That's the fight all loaded up, which is nice. And there we go. We've got our first time reward as well. So first time reward, just be on your head. There's the other rewards we got, and that's all good news. The only other thing I do after this is I go back through and I have a quick fight over, just to make sure that it works with pod. That is about it, okay? But it works fine, okay? So that's that done. I would recommend you doing the same thing as well. So let's look at some other things. If I was which way round are we doing this? Let's do it this way round. So if I was, or when I intend to do this tomorrow on my global team, there we go. Defender's here. So could I use him? Yes, you could use him. I think the Northerners would work well as a defender if you're putting a defender in there, and you can use a Northerner's skill. There's plenty of buffs they can give out. And they increase block as well and do shielding. I think they might be a good shout as a tank or a defender to put in there. Garn and the Chaos. Wow. I don't know. I do not know. I haven't got him. He's a defender. I assume he would work. I would think about different. If I was going this way round, I would look at where are you? There, maybe coming over and doing some AoE damage for us. And she's a northerner as well. Again, good for AoE damage. Don't have him fighter, but AoE damage as well, range, so they could sit the other side of the wall and do that for you. So I think, yeah, very possibly in with a good shout there. Now, what's got a regular? Right, I will probably be using him tomorrow, and I will do a cultist, and I would do an Ingrid as a sort of watcher faction spin-off. So I think as a tank he'd work well, and then I think as DPS she's going to work phenomenally well as well. So that's definitely an issue. Could you use Constance? Very possibly. I think she's an option if you're going that way round. If you're going over there with the Watchers, and yeah, Edith, push them back as well. I think she'd be quite good as well. So lots of options there, I think, as your tanks. It's just whether you can tie in a Lord skill with them just to aid what's going on behind the scenes. Torador, absolutely great. You can use him, no worries there whatsoever. Cultist tank we've already seen. Northerner tanks we've gone over. You'd be great, you'd be great. She'd be fantastic. She covers both, doesn't she? I think she'd be really awesome in this. Again, I don't have her, otherwise she might have got a shout out. She does her own bit of healing, so she might make life a bit easier for her. She does more block as well, doesn't she? So she could be absolutely fantastic for you. As Terence, I don't have that Lord. If I'd got him, I'd have probably used him as a tank as well. I think he could be really good for you. That could be a definite option. What trust could be like, I don't know. I didn't use him. Maybe we could. I don't know. We could try that. Now, I did use Orim. The reason I used him is he's my only 5-star legit hero. I've got Volker as well, but that's throughout the game. So I've pulled so many Orims that I ended up 5-star into him. He's the only natural 5-star champion that I've got without other things going on. Okay, so I used him, and I used a Twin Fiend, and that was a really that was quite a good team, to be honest. Worked out really well. Okay, so that is a definite option. Yes, I presume you could use him, probably not the greatest of options. Yes, you could use a Northerner again if you're using a Northerner Lord somewhere. So there are options available for you with all sorts of other tanks if you go down that defender route and try and keep them away from your wall. There are plenty of options going for you. Okay, so I would decide on the defender I'm going to use and whether that gives me a different Lord I can use, and then if I've got a different Lord I'm using, then that way I can actually change my team around a bit, or look at what I'm putting in my team to see who I'm going to actually fight with. So in the Infernal team that I used here, end up giving you Twin Fiend, which gives us a buff here, but also Ferssi gets a buff, and also she gets buff, and the tank gets one as well. So I sort of mix and match. That team worked for me, although it's not I had a quick death on one of my DPSs and had to put Twin Fiend in, but just go with whatever works for you and your team. Okay, so there you go. There are lots of options out there, lots of options you can use. Something else to mention, just a quick one here, these fighters, even though that ring they're showing it comes through, none of these fighters take damage. We just leave them sat there for a while ticking over, and there is no damage coming in for them. Okay, so you might want to think that this row here does appear that it's got that AoE coming from the little plague monsters that come through. So if we have a look at them here, there we are, Scourge, dealing sustained magic damage to the nearest target. So you'd think that when they come round, because it does clip any platform based units, it doesn't attack your fighters here. So you can put your fighters down there and they don't take any damage. Now what does that mean? It means that this artifact is in with a shout of being used, because you're not going to take any damage. I'm not saying it's the best artifact or best in slot or anything like that, but give it some consideration if you've got one lying around, that you're not going to be taking any damage with your fighters. Okay, so just a little quick tip at the end of the video. Okay, there you go, they're still not taking any damage. Right, so that's me done. That's everything. I think we've covered everything. The chapters in there should make everything easier for you. The only thing I ask is if you can hit the old thumbs up, like and subscribe on your way out. That would help me out massively. And if Mouton ever asks, tell them that I should be on the test server, and then we can do lots more of this type of stuff, couldn't you? Because this is all out of my resources, okay? So thank you very much for your time. I'll see you in a video again tomorrow. We'll do a bit of streaming and we'll go from there. And now we're being overrun. Oh, it's all a nightmare. Right, draw.